Welcome to the Armchair GM podcast. I'm Chris. That's Dylan. I know it's hard to believe, but we did just have free agency. Flames weren't exactly super active. We're going to talk about it. Welcome to the Armchair GM podcast.
Yeah, like Chris said before, Flames didn't really do much. A lot of the teams didn't really do much, which is surprising considering the hike in the salary cap. And everybody was expecting there to be offer sheets, and everyone was expecting there to be all sorts of player movement. And most players just kind of re-signed with their teams. There was a couple of big names that moved, but most of them moved before free agency even started. Really, the biggest name that moved was Nick Ehlers to Carolina, which was, I think, exactly what they needed. But yeah, the Flames pretty much just signed their own guys, besides the backup goalie that we've been rumored to be in on for quite some time. Ivan Prisvedov, I think, is how you say his name. I'm not Russian, but that's what I think. He used to play for Colorado. Pretty decent.
Yep.
Backup goalie, no different than Dan Vladar, in my opinion, except for, not $3.5 million, which is just absurd to me, by the way.
I mean, going into the 25-26 season with $1.75 million locked up in goaltending is quite the feat, I would say.
Especially considering you have one of the best young goalies out there,
right?
Who's probably going to be worth $6, $7, $8 million next year. But
yeah, no, absolutely. He's an RFA at the end of this coming up season, and obviously Ivan's also a UFA after that as well. So we'll see how it all plays out.
Cooley as well.
That's right, Cooley as well. I'm actually surprised that they didn't kind of go with what we know. I mean, obviously Cooley didn't exactly show great last year for the Wranglers, so
he was really, really good for the first half of the season. Then he got injured.
Yeah.
And when he came back from injury, he just kind of sucked, and then he didn't even start in the playoffs. So
yeah, that's not a good sign for who was supposed to be the backup. If Dan Vladar did leave, so I understand why we had to go out and get a guy. So we'll see how it works out. I'm not super excited about the new guy. I'm not upset about it either. It's just a guy, right? He's going to play
start
30 games.
You want Wolf to start 45, 50, 60 games, something like, probably not 60, but somewhere between 45 and 55 games. And Prisvedov's just going to be there to start the other ones, right? And hold the team in it, right? Like, he's not he'd be a huge part of the team if we were a contender, but really, whatever.
Yeah,
I don't care.
Whatever, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's our big signing for the free agency, and we're both just like, meh, whatever.
Yeah, but also I'm glad that Craig didn't, even though we have all this cap space and like Vladar's seems like he's great in the locker room and all that type of stuff. I'm happy Craig didn't just say, yeah, sure, we'll give you a 3.5 like he got in Philly.
Yeah,
because it just doesn't make sense. Like, no, even though we have the cap space, it doesn't make sense to sign a guy who's literally going to be your backup no matter what, unless Wolf gets hurt, knock on wood. It doesn't make sense. So I'm happy that Craig didn't just fold to that and instead went and picked up a goalie who's been ripping up the KHL the last couple of years. And
yeah, he's looked pretty decent in the KHL, and actually looked not bad in the AHL for the 21 games that he played for Colorado in the 23-24 season. So I mean, we'll see, right? He's got a career save percentage of 881, which is fine.
Slightly
Um,
worse than Vladar.
yeah, right.
Slight.
I I feel like I trust Vladar more than this new guy, but I'm willing to see what he's got. I mean, it is
Mhm,
what it is. I'm not expecting the Flames to be, hoisting a cup in the 25-26 season. So kind of want to see what he can do. If he can have a good showing, then okay, fine. Then we extend him, I suppose, depending on where we're at.
mhm, exactly. Um, well, let's move on a little bit. Um, let's talk about the Kevin Ball contract. So, a few days before free agency, um, the Flames announced that they signed expiring restricted free agent Kevin Ball. You know, played for us
Yep.
last part of the Markstrom trade. And honestly, I think both of us, if I may speak for you, I think both of us were pretty happy um, with his play for the first year of his contract. He
Yep.
was pretty good. He played with Rasmus Anderson, and that was for the first half of the year. I thought really good, and then Ball got hurt and Anderson got hurt, and Anderson kept playing when he probably shouldn't have. And then when Ball got back, they both kind of went downhill a lot. But I thought
Yep.
that he showed pretty good when it comes to strictly defensive play. I don't
Right.
expect anything offensively out of him, but I think extending him, how old is he? He's
25.
25. So this will expire when he's 31. It's a 6-year deal
Yep.
worth $5.35 million, which for a top four guy in the next few years is going to be a sweet deal, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I kind of grew to love Kevin Ball. Obviously, when we first started with him, I didn't know much about him. He was just a big lanky dude on the ice. Minute muncher, could do all that stuff. But I really appreciated how he plays the game. So I'm not I'm not concerned about the contract. The length of time is reasonable to me. The dollar value for a top four defender is pretty good as far as I'm concerned. Gave him a really nice pay raise. So I think at the end of the day, everybody is happy with how that contract turned out. I know a lot of the fan base are not super impressed by it, but I think they're mostly looking at his offensive numbers, right? And I'm looking at defensively how he plays the game, and as far as I'm concerned, I want to see more of that.
Absolutely. And in my opinion, you know, 5.3 million is pretty much, you know, it's a top four guy now.
Mhm.
And as the cap continues to rise, as has been reported, it's supposed to go up several million a few times over the next couple years or over the next few years.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think a top four guy is going to be like 7 or 8 million by the time this contract, like this is just me projecting. I don't know for sure, but
Yep.
I'm guessing that a top four guy is going to be like, 7, 8, 8.5 mil by the time his contract expires. And this is going to look like a sweet deal. Now I'm curious how you feel about the modified no trade clause that starts in 2027 and goes until it expires, which is only 8 teams for 3 years,
Yeah.
4 years.
Yeah. The 8 team list it's an 8 team no trade, so that still gives us a lot of options. So it's not as bad as initially because I thought it was an 8 team list initially, and so I was kind of worried about
Mhm.
that, obviously. But an 8 team no trade, I think gives us a ton of options, really. I mean, there's still, what does that leave us? 23 Yeah, 23,
24.
24 teams, 20, 23 teams we can trade with, right? And so
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with that.
and there's supposed to be two more teams coming, two more expansion teams coming in the next couple of years. So
Yeah. Yeah,
you know,
exactly. Yeah. So I mean,
so many teams,
I'm not worried
so
about
many.
that at all, to be honest with you. Um, and the fact that the Flames again, like we're gonna have to sign somebody pretty big to reach the salary floor here pretty soon in the next couple of years. Our top salary for defenders in our future captain Mackenzie Weegar, it's at 6.25 for the next 5 years or 6 years as well. So yeah, 6 years for him as well. So Ball and Mackenzie Weegar expire at the same time. So obviously they'll have to think about what's happening at that point. But I mean, that's years down the road, and I'm sure a lot will change between now and then.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably looking at some of the younger players like Wolf and Perek are going to need, you know, extensions,
Mhm.
one or two extensions by the time those two are over. Those two contracts, the Uyghur and Ball contracts, are over, and both of those are likely to be far more expensive. So
Yeah. Well, it's nice that we actually have Perek uh, locked up for the next 3 seasons, which is nice. It gives us a good sample size so we can see what he's made of, and then we can make a decent decision on what is what his next contract looks like, and because he's still in RFA status as well. So
mhm.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually. Gives us 3 years to really kind of get acclimatized to what his game looks like. And, if he ends up showing like he should, fantastic. We'll pay the kid, but it gives us that ability to hold back or pull back on the reins a little bit if things just aren't progressing like they should be. So I actually like the 3 year on that.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's just an entry level deal too. So
Yeah.
it's good. Um, let's move on. Joel Hanley signed right before free agency, like a couple hours before free agency started.
Yeah.
Um, now it's only 1.75 for two
Yeah.
years. He's not a young player, right? And personally, I'm looking for, like, he's 34 years old, so this will expire when he's 36. Um,
Yeah.
that's kind of iffy, but it's cheap. It's variable if you need to send him down. It's waivable. It's
Yeah.
tradable. It's all that type of stuff. So I'm not too worried about it. Um, like, even this upcoming year, I feel like if Solovyov or Kuznetsov or Grushnikov or any of those young left-hand D come up and
Mhm.
outplay him, they'll just take his spot and he'll be,
Yeah, it'll be the seventh
1.75
guy.
is perfectly palatable to sit in the press box or to be sent down.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like giving him the 2 years kind of opens up the window to package in a deal, Jake Bean or Maramanov, hopefully. Um, and then just kind of do that, right? Because they both have 1 season left on their contract. Jake Bean at the 1.75 and Maramanov at the 1.25.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1.25. So, I mean, I would like to see both or at least one of those gone before the season starts. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think it at least opens up the door for packaging them up for potential Anderson trade or whatever the case may be. Because I don't think we want to roll into next season with that many defenders. Because I really want to have Zane Perek given a chance to be on the team for majority of the games next season.
Yeah, and I feel like he will. Like, the only way that Perek won't play most of the games next year is if Rasmus Anderson doesn't get traded. Um,
Right.
and we'll get into that whole Anderson thing in a little bit after we talk about all these signings. But yeah, I don't. I don't see a world in which Perek doesn't play, the vast majority of the games next year, um, simply because he's right-handed, and all those other guys we
Right.
just talked about. Um, Actually, I'm not sure what handedness Bean and Miramonov are, but I also just don't give a shit because if Perek plays well, he'll make one of those guys a healthy scratch either way. So, and
I
he's
mean,
got,
I just don't give a shit about them to begin with.
yeah,
Um, Maramonov is right, Bean is left.
yeah. And honestly, like I don't, they're both perfectly waivable. You know, I don't know how Conroy's going to go about his business for the rest of the season. There's still a lot, or the rest of the off season. I think there's lots of work left to do still,
Mhm.
but we'll see.
Well, he still
And
has to sign Tyson Berry, right? Because I mean, he's a UFA right now. He can't go into next year without him.
shut the fuck up.
Kidding,
Uh,
obviously. Well, he's got Connor Zary to extend. So I mean, that's a big one, as far as I'm concerned.
it is, and I'm
Rory
just gonna
Cairns,
tie up Hanley real
Sam
quick though.
Morton. Yep.
One thing I do like about Hanley, and I'm surprised that he signed so low at 175 because he played top 4 minutes for about half the year, and while he didn't like pop off the page, he didn't pop off the page for anything bad, right? So
Right.
he held his own in top 4 minutes, and even though he's 34, I still think he probably could have gone somewhere in free agency and got more than the combination of the 2 years for 1 year.
Yeah, potentially. Right. It's still $1 million more than he's ever made in his career. So I'm sure, given his age, he sees that. He sees a stable place. He likes the system clearly.
Hmm.
Potentially he likes the guys in the room. I assume. Obviously, the culture really changed last year, so I would think that's a
Buzzword.
bit of a piece on that. Right.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, like you got he finally got a pay raise, right? Like he finally found a spot, and we gave him an extra mil. So I'm sure that had some of the factor that went into making his decision to stay with the Flames.
100%. And I don't blame him for that at all. Like
No.
when you're making that much money, like comfort means a lot for
Yep.
some guys, right? Like I'm sure he's looking at his career as a guy who didn't play much at all before he came to Calgary, and it's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, I know I'll probably play, and I know I'll be making some good money, so I might as well stay, right?
Yeah.
I was just
Exactly.
surprised
I'm sure that's all it is.
when it came through and it was only 175. I was surprised and happy.
Yeah.
So good for him.
Yeah. Good for him. Good for Conroy. Job
Yeah.
well done. And I'm when we did our recap of the season there, we both talked about Hanley being one of the only ones that would be willing to hold on to as far as Maramonoff and Bean and Hanley, right? So I
Yeah.
think we would like to, at least I would like to see those other two sent away, sent packing for whatever
Hmm.
for whatever. I don't whether we waive them or send them somewhere for a fifth round pick. I don't give a shit. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I have no problem with Joel Hanley being on the team at all. He's a veteran guy. He can potentially work and help Zane a little bit at his game. Not that he's not a world beater, but he's not going to hurt you.
Absolutely. Now, before we get into Zari, because he's not signed yet, I wanted to get into the other RFA that Conroy signed about a couple days back, Morgan Frost.
Yeah.
Um, Picked up a 2-year contract at 4.375 with an 8-team no trade list for both years. Um, I'm I'm not overly like I don't feel one way or the other about it, mostly because I don't mind the contract at all. I'm just kind of
Yeah.
annoyed that it's possibly taking center development away from Zari.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I I'm not surprised that we extended him. To be honest, I honestly thought we would. It would make that trade just an absolute disaster if we didn't. To be honest, I don't like the 8-team list. I think that hurts a little bit, but it's a
It's
two
funny you
year.
say that because you didn't care about balls. It's the exact same list.
No, it's not. Ball is a no trade for 18, and Morgan Frost is an 18 list.
I, isn't it an 8-team list that he can't be traded to? That's
No.
how I've understood it.
So if you look at, so I'm looking at cap wages and it says modified no trade 18 list. But if you look at Kevin Ball, it's a modified no trade clause 18 no trade list.
Oh, interesting. Fuck. Okay, then I actually don't like the contract at all.
Yeah. Yeah, that I have a serious problem with that. I'm good with the dollar amount and the 2 year kind of proved me contract because he didn't exactly shine last year. I mean, he had some good moments, some good flash and stuff like that, but we certainly didn't produce like we thought we would see from him.
Huh.
I mean, maybe
I think you're
cap
right.
wage
Sorry,
just
I was just looking at some other contracts to see what they said, and yeah, no, I think you're right, and that's really frustrating.
uh,
I I
right.
didn't see that originally.
Yeah, that changes from 23 to 8 is a big change, right? You know,
Yeah,
even a 12 team or a 15 team I would be a little more comfortable with, but an 8 team is difficult, right? You
that's
definitely
really
can't get
difficult. Like,
maximum return.
yeah, keep going.
I mean, there's not much to keep going on that, right? Like I said, I like the 2 year, gives it a show me because you know he needs to prove himself because he certainly didn't when he got here. The dollar amount I'm perfectly okay with because you know he's a middle six center and you know he plays power play and penalty kill. So everything else about his contract I'm a okay with. But that yeah that no trade or modified no trade is really bugging me. Like that's Brad Treliving shit right there.
Yeah, that's completely unnecessary. In
Yeah,
my
I agree.
opinion, like
Yeah.
I'd rather have him sign a fucking offer sheet or something and go somewhere else than like again, I don't mind him as a player. Like he didn't produce a whole bunch, but you saw what he's capable of, and you saw.
Mhm.
I think if he was playing with some more skilled players and playing more frequent power play minutes, you saw an entry machine. You know,
Yeah.
really good at entering the zone, and really the only other
Mhm.
player we have that's any good at that is Zari, who was hurt at the time. So, you know, the
Yeah.
team was desperately needing that, and he's good at that. And he's a center. He wins a decent amount of faceoffs, which the team also needs. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that he can produce more than he was. I think he was super snake bitten. But that 8-team list is I didn't realize that. That's oh
Sorry, sorry to crush
oh
your dreams right here
my
on the
whole
show.
summer has been ruined, Chris. No.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Fuck
I mean,
you.
honestly, I think it's like much what happened to Huberdeau, right? Like he came here, a brand new system, just it was so much shock, right? For Huberdeau, he didn't know how to handle it, and I think a bit of that was the same for Frost. And so I think he's going to produce more next year. I think you know once he starts getting comfortable with the system and start learning it and whatnot, like he showed a lot of flashes. He showed a lot of creativity with the puck and stuff like that. Like I really like his game, but obviously we just need to see more more points on the board from him.
Yeah, I agree. To a point. I mean, I wouldn't really compare like I wouldn't really compare his struggles with Huberto because I think that his struggles started like a couple years ago in Philly, whereas
Sure.
Huberto wasn't struggling already. But also being held back by Tortorella is a thing.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but I don't think Huska's system is that different from Tortorella's, but his
Right.
coaching style when it comes to how he treats players is. So I'm interested to see how that develops throughout the next couple of years.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, right? Because their systems are somewhat similar, right?
And like I know this is probably going off on a bit of a tangent, completely, you know, on a different topic, but I find it weird that Tortorella and his coaching style, like, yeah, he coached in Vancouver, which is in the West. You know, the West is more his style, but he also coached in Tampa and Philly and Columbus. Like, he coached in all Eastern places, and that just doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, his coaching in Tampa was obviously fruitful.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
I do. Yeah. Yeah. No,
Like
I do. I
I
understand what you're
think it
saying.
would have been even more successful if he stayed in the West.
I mean, he had a hell of a career.
He sure did,
It was
and
hard.
I think the Tortorella hate is a little bit overblown because he is a fucking really good coach.
He's a really good coach, and I love his interviews. And I can say that because I've never played for him, so I mean, I don't really give a shit who he is as a human being. I mean, I do, but I don't.
Yeah,
Actually, I can't even say that because from what I understand, he's a really good human being. He's just a really hard-nosed coach. That's all, right?
absolutely. So so in Puckpedia, Morgan Frost says 8 team no trade list. So I think we might not know what that is for sure because the two sites say different things. And also it says only in year 2, which
Yeah.
Puck.
See, that's. Let's see what.
Sorry, I wanted to look that up in different things because I can't see I can't see a guy of Morgan Frost's caliber getting an 8 team list to trade to. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I'm curious. Maybe I'll look further into that,
Yeah.
and we'll
I want to
come
look
back.
further into that as well because. Yeah. Because I mean, geez, I'm gonna
It's
I'm gonna pull up a couple of sites actually because of it. Everybody's got a
What are you looking
different.
at, like Sportac or something?
Yeah, I looked at NHL doesn't do much because they don't like to give details.
Yeah.
Sportac says,
Oh, we don't have to look
mm,
it up right now. It's just
yeah,
interesting that the two things say something different, or maybe we're just understanding it wrong. What does Sportac say?
um, doesn't mention it.
Oh, interesting. Okay, well,
Mhm.
maybe I'll look further into it. I have a couple contacts actually now. I have a couple contacts that I might be able to ask about that over the next week or so. So
Yeah. So if you're watching this episode, stay tuned because we're probably going to update this.
absolutely. Um, all right, so let's talk about Connor Zary because he's not signed yet. All signs according to Steinberg and pretty much everyone else that covers the team, even Francis and all those guys, kind of say that it's just a matter of number, and it's going to come in probably at a 2 or 3 year um, bridge deal worth about 3-ish mil. We don't know for sure. Obviously, that's all speculation, but I don't think there's any reason to believe that he's not going to be a Flame next year. Um,
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah, I agree.
yeah, it's not like any team can give him an offer, but offer sheeting someone like Zeri is likely just aggravating as opposed to actually something that's going to work. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, and I mean, given his career as a professional hockey player, i.e., AHL and NHL, the bridge deal to me makes sense. Just because of, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not harping on him. Obviously, he's an incredible player. He's a super talent. I get all that, but we need to make sure that he can play 1 or 2 full seasons without injury. So I'm
Absolutely.
totally okay with uh, with a bridge deal with him. I think it would be wise to do that regardless. So
Yeah.
if we can sign him, to a 3.5 to 4 times 2 or it's probably going to be a times 2, I think.
That would
Um,
be my best guess as well.
yeah, yeah, because I don't think he's going to want to go too long at the lower wage. Because I mean, all signs point to him being an $8 to $9 million player. So I'm sure he's going to want to get to
Eventually,
that
if he stays
contract
healthy.
negotiation. Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. If he's able to stay healthy, I think he will garner a much larger contract, and so I think a 2 year at a smaller salary is going to be what ends up getting him locked up for now, and then we kind of move forward and
I
and
agree
hope
that that's
that he can
probably
do the
what's going to
same.
happen. And I agree that I think probably the team and the player both agree on that because they both want to see, the
Mhm.
player wants to prove that he can stay healthy, and the
Yep.
team wants to see more from him. Now, you know how I feel about this player. To me, he's the most dynamic puck carrier on the team when
You're
he's
you're
healthy.
the only person that I've ever met that has Connor Zary PJs and bed sheets.
I do. I do. I'd pan over to him, but you know, they don't
They're all
exist.
ruffled up. They're all ruffled up.
They're crusty. No, gross.
Ah, damn it,
Anyways,
Dylan.
no, but I do think again, like I think he's the most dynamic puck carrier on the team. He's got to work on his finishing a little bit, but I do think he's got a wicked
Yep.
shot. Um, I think the two injuries he had last year were fluke, and the fact that it was the same thing in two completely different manners is just mind blowing. Um, I don't, and like even his injuries before, like getting hit in the foot with a puck and breaking his foot a couple years back, like I don't think there's guys I call injury prone, you know, the Patrick Laine's of the world. Um, who have injuries that are likely to resurface. I don't think that Zari's like that. And I also like that they didn't have him come back at the very end of the season because I heard he could have.
Right.
So I
Yeah,
think
there's
they've
no
kind of
sense in
maybe
that.
learned their lesson from Monahan, I think.
Well,
Um,
different times, right? Different management.
absolutely.
Different management. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that he's not injury prone. He's had 4 injuries in his 5-year career. So you know, I
I
really like him as a player, but I really hope he gets it sorted out. Obviously most of them have been fluke, I get it, but
You're right.
they've had they've happened, and so
You're
it's
right. And injury prone, I guess, yeah, you could call him injury prone, but I don't think that it's like, to me, injury prone means recurring the same thing, like a Mark Stone or something like that. But I
I mean
guess you could call injury
that's not
prone different
injury
injuries.
prone. That's a guy that just shouldn't be playing anymore,
Well, I agree with that. When you have a
right?
degenerative back disease, you probably
Yeah,
shouldn't play hockey. Uh,
yeah. Like I mean,
he's
I've
still
got a
good.
lot of respect for the man. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's not even injury prone. I mean, that's just he's got some shit that he needs to sort out, and he needs to
100%.
do that away from the NHL. You know,
I
and I
agree.
hope everything goes well for him. I really do.
Yeah. Anyways, back to Zary. Yeah, I'm no GM. I'm just an armchair GM. uh,
Heyo.
but if I were Conroy, because I see the skill and I think he's got a crazy amount of it, I would be trying to give him a long term, like 5 or 6 mil type of thing. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's going to sign probably a 2 or 3 year deal worth 2-ish mil, or sorry, 3-ish
Yeah,
mil. And
yeah,
that's, that I'm not going to complain about that. I'm just going to look at it when it expires and be like, well, he's been healthy, if he has been healthy, and now it's going to be an 8 or 9 mil deal instead, which, if he
you know what?
turned out the way I see him turning out, I wouldn't be that upset about either.
Exactly. If he ends up turning into that player in 2 years, friggin' a, good on him, right? And
Mhm.
I support that, and I support the $9 million contract back in at that point. But I need to see it. I think he has it in him as long as he can keep himself out of the press box with a boot on his foot. We don't need that anymore.
I just want to put out there, I think it was the collision with Rantanen. Was that the second one? Yeah, that was the second one. And that was the mom's trip. And
Right.
his mom was there watching that. Like, I couldn't fucking imagine. Oh, that
Yeah.
looks so bad. Both of those injuries this past year with that leg. Again, completely different things. And like, even just thinking about either of them with Drew Hellison or with Mikko Rantanen, uh,
Yeah.
they're like,
Yeah. That second one, like the way he went back, I was just like, yeah, well, he may not walk again. That's not good. Like,
yeah,
holy shit. Like, that was bad. That was not a good
that was
scene.
the first one, right?
I think that was the second.
Okay.
I mean, who
Well, I
I
mean,
can't
both of
remember.
them kind of looked like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah. Oh, you know what? You might be right. Yeah. Anyways,
the second
all
one,
all I'm saying is he needs to play a full season. Then we'll pay the kid.
oh no, I totally agree. And if he plays 2 full seasons, then we really need to pay the kid. Um,
Yep.
because I don't know, I might be the biggest Connor Zary fan that doesn't have the same last name um out there.
I actually saw it on Reddit that you were planning on changing your name. Is this accurate?
Both names. My name is gonna be my first name is gonna be Zary, and my last name is gonna be Connor, just to switch it up a little bit.
Sure. Why not?
Anyways, that was weird. Let's move on.
And right. Hey, how you doing? I'm Zary Zary. What?
back back on the rails here.
Meanwhile,
Let's talk about the draft. So the Flames, for the second year in a row, have been um praised by a lot of draft experts, in the sense, like, not in the sense that they got the top talent, but in the sense that they got the most value for where they were picking throughout the draft.
right.
I don't know, have you been paying much attention? I know you're you've had some family in town, so I wasn't sure if you've been paying much attention or not.
It's been a struggle. I looked into the guys. I actually didn't watch the draft live.
Oh,
As
you
I
weren't
was,
missing much.
yeah, that's kind of the way I felt. I kind of looked back at it, a couple hours later, and it's just like, oh, okay. I wasn't blown away. I wasn't super upset. It was just kind of, it was what it is, right?
Yeah, I'm happy that it turned out that way, not for these kids, but I'm happy that the draft itself turned out that way, because then we can go back to the draft as it should be, which is where the kids get to like meet the team right then and there and get their jersey handed to them by the GM or by
Hmm.
McDonald or whatever. Like it just I can't remember maybe it was Jeff Merrick I was listening to who was there at the draft and was saying that when those kids went into that draft cube room, the door shut. So the people who were there couldn't even see what was going on. Like the whole thing was a fucking shit show. And half the time the draft feed lagged and then the player who was trying to talk to the team didn't work out. It was just the whole thing was like just a fucking shit show, man.
Typical NHL, right? Second class.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the players that the Flames selected because there's a few that I'm actually a little excited about.
Yep.
Let's go from the top.
Hey.
At 18th overall, um, from the pick the Flames got from the Markstrom trade to the New Jersey pick, we picked
Mhm.
Cole Reschny, who
Yep.
is a Oilers fan. Not anymore, he says, but he was an Oilers fan beforehand. Um, for anybody watching this or listening to this show who has been listening for a few years, when we first started, we had another co-host named Ty. He's still a buddy of ours. We play fantasy hockey with him quite often. He lives in Victoria and he goes to Victoria Royals games all the time. And he was begging for us to pick Cole Reschny because he thinks this guy is the next big thing.
We had 92 points last year, so of course he thinks that.
Yeah. Now, I've never watched full games of any of these guys. I don't have a whole bunch of time to be watching, you know, full junior games or college games or anything like that. But
Yeah.
I've there's a couple different channels, YouTube channels I follow that have draft breakdowns of players, and it's not just positives. They go into the breakdowns of the things that the players aren't so good at and how they can improve and what the probability of them is to improve in those areas. And I
Mhm.
really enjoy that because most of the times you see videos of draftees, it's all high flying offense or whatever, right? And
Yeah.
so I really enjoy that. And what I've really liked about Cole Reschny, and I feel like a bunch of people here who are watching might not like that I say this, but he reminds me a lot of Elias Pettersson, and not like the last 2 years of Elias Pettersson, but before that, when he was like a
It was
90, 100 point player. Um,
yeah, like 5 inches shorter though.
yeah, five inches shorter, but he actually plays bigger.
Mm.
Which doesn't say much because Elias Pettersson doesn't play very big. But Elias Pettersson and Cole Reschny both have this playmaking skill where they're very good at drawing defenders in and kind of almost having eyes in the back of their head and
Right.
seeing things open up and taking that opportunity right as it opens up and using guys at the front of the net. Elias Pettersson did this very, very well with Andrei Kuzmenko that one year and has done it very well with some other players as well. but
Yeah.
using players who find that soft spot in front of the net as a bumper. So he just kind of passes it off of their stick and in the net. And I saw that quite a lot with Reschny. And I think
Mhm.
that goes well with the way the Flames like to play and have for years. Having a guy kind of off the side of the net instead of right in front of the net. So I'm interested to see how that works. Um, I'm also super excited about how mature this kid sounds. He sounds, and like, this is far too early to say, but he sounds like a guy who could be a future leader in the room. And you don't see that from young kids that often. Um, he plays. He's not very physical. Like, he's not shy to battle for the puck, but he's not out there hitting people, and he isn't a big fan of getting hit, which is another thing that I see kind of like Elias Pettersson.
Right. Which is kind of one of the things that is the detriment of Pedersen, I think. He gets injured
Yeah,
a lot
especially over
because
the
of it.
last couple of years.
Yeah.
But if this Reschny guy can put it all together, um, I don't know. I'm relatively excited. I'm not saying this guy is going to be a first line center. I think that's a reach, but I would be very interested in seeing Cole Reschny in the future of the Flames being kind of like a 2C and a power play point presence, if you know what I mean. Um,
Yeah.
Kind of a playmaker from the point on the power play, which the Flames just haven't had since Johnny.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see, right? It'd be interesting to see what he looks like after a couple of seasons in the A.
Yeah.
See what he can make of himself.
Well, he's going to college next year.
That's right.
Yeah. And so is Cullen Potter, who the Flames selected at 32. And this pick, actually, both of these picks got really high reviews from draft experts. A lot of them were asking, like, confused why Potter hadn't gone way earlier.
Yeah. I'm more
Um,
excited about Potter, to be honest with you.
are you? See, I'm a little iffy on him. Excuse me. He's 5'10", 172. The one thing I can say that I am excited is that he managed to put up really, really good numbers as a 17-year-old in college, which you just don't see
Right.
very often
Hmm.
on a not
Yeah.
good team.
I mean, he's got a very small sample size, obviously, because he is so young. I think it's
Yeah,
interesting that in the first 3 rounds, you drafted two kids from Minnesota
yeah,
or Minneapolis, I guess, right? So that's kind of neat.
yeah, yeah. It's neat. Again, I watched some of those draft breakdown videos of Cullen Potter as well,
Mhm.
and there was something I noticed that the guy didn't even bring up that I wasn't a huge fan of, but I'll start with the good things. The guy can score from range,
Everywhere. Yeah,
from everywhere. He's not
he's got a
afraid.
really good shot.
Yeah. And his transition game is next level. Whether it's
Yeah.
passing from the defensive zone forward or rushing through the neutral zone, he's a really good skater. He's very quick. He's a little bit smaller. That's a thing you often see with smaller players.
Yeah.
But to be able to do that against men when you're 17 is pretty impressive. The one thing I was kind of iffy about, and I don't know, I'm sure he can fix that or fix it, is he didn't seem like he was super keen on getting in past the hash marks. He seemed like very perimeter to me. He'd shoot from the perimeter, he'd pass from the perimeter, but he seemed like he'd kind of stop up on
Hmm.
the boards or before the hash marks, even when he had like a partial breakaway type of thing, he'd still stop. Like he wouldn't just take what was there, he'd kind of stop up a little bit. And that is kind of worrisome.
Interesting.
But I
I
do
wonder
feel
if
like
he had himself a Robin Regier moment like he's Elias Hemsky.
and that's very possible, right? As a smaller kid in college, very possible.
Hmm.
I don't know. But a lot of the draft experts say that, this kid should have been a top 15 pick. A couple of them said he should have been a top 10 pick just based on skill. And that's one thing I've really been happy with when it comes to the Flames drafting over the past few years is really betting on the skill. And then
Yeah.
I know you were a little annoyed by the size thing. Um, at least that's what you said in the group chat at one point during the draft or just after the draft, I think. But
Yeah,
I think size is something you can get in free agency, and yeah,
yeah. The first two picks that we had, the two in the first round, we didn't have a lot really to choose from that I was excited about, to be honest, in those in that range. So I was hoping for some more size, but looking back on it, as it wasn't as bad as I was initially thinking. So, because looking at the players that were available at that time, it didn't make any sense to draft them any earlier or anything like that. So I ended up being okay with it. Initially, I was kind of irritated by it because that's one of the things that we've done in the last few years has just been right around the 5'8" to 5'11" mark for a while and just going on skill alone. And then we get them into the NHL and we discover very quickly that they don't have the strength to produce and just be an actual member of the NHL. And so, you know, it, aside from, a couple of one-offs, like obviously Johnny Gaudreau and guys like that, or Coronado, it's been pretty much a bust for anybody that's been, 5'10" and less, right? So
yeah, but it's also been a little tough, and I'm not going to call him a bust right now because he's still only 20. But maybe you're a little bit disappointed with the 6'4" um, Sam Honzek, you know, and
or yeah,
when you reach for size, you end up with guys like fucking Mark Jankowski. Like I'd rather bet on skill.
he's a he's a stud now. Look at him.
Yeah, right. He's definitely had a couple of good games in his career. Uh,
I don't think I've ever. That was the only time I ever saw Jay Feaster excited, and he was super excited about Mark.
he sure was. Um,
Mm.
anyway,
Anyways,
let's move on. In the second round, we got Theo Stocksalius, who's a Swede, 6'3", 196. So I'm sure you were a little bit more excited about that.
yep.
Played very well in Sweden. This guy's a
Sweden
cancer
junior.
survivor at 18, and that's very very interesting to me. Like
Yeah,
to be that young and be that good at hockey that you're getting picked in the second round by a NHL team after going through chemo and whatever the fuck else he went through. That's pretty.
it's impressive, right? You
Mhm.
know, he had 51 points in 40 games last year, but also in the playoffs, 9 games and 16 points, 8 goals, 8 assists. So,
Yeah,
like,
and that
he's
Djurgården team was really good.
yeah, and he's not afraid to, or he was able to produce when it matters the most. And so, that's I want winners on my team, and I'm actually pretty excited for Theo, to be honest with you. I looked at him a little bit right after the draft, and yeah, I'm happy that that we selected him. I hope we can get him over here and get him signed and see what he can do.
Yeah. And not going to spend too much time on the rest of the drafted guys
Yeah.
because as you go further down the list, generally they have less and less of a chance of making the NHL. Maceo Phillips, 6'6", 233 defenseman. I watched one of those breakdown videos, and my God, the guy cannot skate worth shit. I swear to God, I can
Right.
skate better. He reminds me of Mangiapane, how he just falls over all the time, except very slow.
A lot bigger too.
And a lot
He's
bigger.
legit a foot taller than Mangiapane
Yeah. You know what I
and
mean,
like
though, when it comes to
I
falling
do.
over. Yeah. He doesn't
Yeah,
remind me
absolutely.
of Mangiapane in size or stature or way he plays, but he reminds me of Mangiapane in the way he skates, in the fact that he's falling over all the time.
Yeah.
Not very pumped on that. And that was one of the ones that one of the two picks that the Flames had that got chastised a little bit by the draft experts.
Yeah.
You never know because we have Danielle Fujita, who's probably the best skating coach in the league. She's done absolute wonders with some players, including Matt Coronado and most notably Matthew Tkachuk.
Yeah.
Um, Moving
We
on, Ethan
we
Witten.
might have a Buffalo in the making, right? Look at his size. You never know.
You never know. I'm not gonna write. I'm not gonna write anybody off until I've
Yeah.
known about them for more than a month.
Right.
Ethan Widdenbach, fifth round, 144th overall. This one's intriguing to me. He's only 5'8", 180, which is obviously why he fell. Played in the
Yeah.
USHL, which is a relatively low-scoring league. And we got a guy, Chris, I don't know if you know this. We got a guy who scored 24 goals and got 51 points in 44 USHL games. He is well
Yeah.
over a point a game, and we got him in a low scoring league. He's well over a point a game. We got him in the
Yeah.
fifth round because he's short.
Yeah. It's interesting because Hockey DB has him listed as 5'10", 180.
Okay. And I think Todd Button was on the radio and was saying the same thing. He said that some of the websites have him, because I'm looking at the Flames website actually, and it has him at 5'8",
Interesting.
5'8",
Okay.
180, and
Yeah.
on Hockey DB, you are right. He is 180, 5'10", so couple inches taller, which is good.
But even at whether he's obviously somewhere between 5'8" and 5'10" and a buck 80, which so he's got some size to him as well, right? I mean, obviously he's a bit
Some
shorter,
girth.
but he's thick, right?
Yeah,
So by rights he should be difficult to get off the puck, and he should be good at digging in the corners and doing that sort of thing. So let's see what he can do. Obviously, he's a fifth round pick, so you're not you're not
project.
stopping the franchise just for Ethan, but we'll see what he can do.
Absolutely. And if that kind of offense that in the USHL too, right? Like it's a low scoring league. And if
Yeah,
that kind of offense can translate into the next level, then that's humongous.
yeah, absolutely.
Um, where are we here? I haven't really
Aiden
looked
Lane.
into Jacob Leander or Jan Matvico or Aiden Lane, the sixth and seventh round picks we got. I do know
Yeah,
that the scouts were really banging the table for Jan Matvico. I don't know if I said that right. Um, and therefore, Craig went out and acquired another seventh round pick to get him because there was apparently a
he's
couple scouts banging the table for him. So
really. I mean, in his 2 years playing for the Red Army. back home. His first year at 26 games and 1 point, followed
Yeah,
by 42 games and 24 points. So, but again, it's seventh round pick, so it's not like you're gonna
exactly.
worry that much about it. If he can translate into the NHL, great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I again, I haven't done any looking into on any of the three. I just remember hearing that on the radio.
Mhm.
And like I said, this you know prospect prospect guys on the athletic, the Corey Pronmans and those type of guys seem to really like the Flames draft in general. Maybe not so much on the Maceo Phillips
Right.
part, but the rest of it they seem to actually quite enjoy. Um, and I'm excited to see Cole Reschny. I'm hoping Colin Potter can turn into something, but I'm excited for Reschny in the future and Theo Stoxielius in the future. And I'm happy that
Right.
some of these guys are going to college. I'm happy that that's become a thing that you can do because that just means you're playing against men.
I find it interesting that Cole has played 3 seasons in the WHL and
At
now he's
18.
going to college. He's 18 now, right? So I mean, so
He's been playing in the WHL since he was 15.
that's insane, right? You would think that would toughen a guy up because the WHL is not it's not a soft league.
No.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
let's
it's
see it.
exciting to see.
I like it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what these kids can bring. I'm hopeful, right? I got to be hopeful. That's all I got nowadays, right? Because we're not, obviously, according to Craig and according to what he's done, we're not breaking any sort of headlines with our trades and whatnot. So, got to build, got to build.
Absolutely. You you want to talk about Anderson or you want to leave
What's there
that?
to say, right? Yeah, maybe leave it.
I
But
guess it's the biggest thing that's going on with the Flames right now, right? Like,
or the biggest thing that's not going on with the Flames right now.
mhm. I don't know. I feel like something's going to get done in the not too distant future with Anderson, and by that I mean sometime this summer. I'm very very worried that it ends up being Buffalo and we get Bowen Byram in return because um,
Right. I want picks.
I want picks as well. And like, don't get me wrong, Bowen Byram has some upside, and there's been all sorts of rumors that the Flames are one of the top teams in
Yeah.
contention for him. I'm just
I mean,
he's only
I don't mind him
24.
as a player. Yeah.
Yeah, he's only 24 and defensemen tend to take a little bit longer. He came out in the league flying when he was younger. He was really good when he started and he seems and I know he got traded to Buffalo and Buffalo sucks. But his advanced stats, his heat maps have gone steadily downhill every year and that worries me. Um
I mean, to me,
especially
that just suggests he needs different coaches, right? But
maybe.
I mean, I like him as a player. or at least I'm fine with him as a player. And he's not somebody that I'm wanting to target.
Yeah.
I think I think if we're getting rid of somebody of Anderson's stature and ability, I just for where the Flames are, I want draft picks right now. I really do. I don't want to bring more players in. We're just looking at a nine player defensive core going into the season as it sits right now, right? So I want to subtract from that and pick up draft picks and move into the next season and start developing our youth. Let's get these guys on the ice and let's see what they can do. And if let's see what pieces we need to look at when it comes to next year's draft.
Draft picks and young prospects. And like I said, Byram's only 24, but that's not a
Yeah,
prospect. He's got a cup. He's been in the league for several years now.
that's
At
right.
some point, and I said the same thing about Hannafin, and I was right, by the way, that at some point when you've played several hundred games, you are what you are,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And also, the thing that really scares me with Byram, and I know he's played a full season, maybe two, but concussions. And this is going to sound like a hypocritical statement because I'm not worried about Zeri and his injuries, but I think concussions are a injury that comes back and haunts you later in your life, especially when you've had several of them as a young person. The brain is mush, and when it becomes mush, it's easier to make mush again, if you know what I mean. That's a very simplistic way of
Mush,
putting it, but
mush is very easy to mush again. Yes,
yeah.
agreed.
Think of an
Yeah,
avocado.
I agree. No, that sounds gross.
Bowen
But I
Byram's
like avocado.
brain is a overripe avocado.
I was going to say it's blackened. They
Yeah.
forgot to put the pit in. It's fine.
Too much oxidation, as it were. Anyways, enough vegetable talk. Um, I'm just I'm just worried that we're picking up another concussion prone player that we don't need to
Yeah,
be getting.
yeah,
Um, I could be proven wrong, and he could be the next big thing, but
could
I'm
be.
worried
I
about
still
that.
don't want him.
Hmm.
He could be the next big thing. I don't want him. I want picks only and prospects that aren't in the league yet.
Fair enough.
That's all I want.
I
I
want
don't
to
want
see,
I don't want
especially.
players that have been traded now a second time, career going downhill. I don't want that. There's no reason for Conroy to pick up a piece like that for Anderson. Find
Yeah,
somebody that's on his way up. We want guys going up, not down. We
I
don't need
agree.
projects.
I agree. And I'm worried that also if you're trading for Byram, you'll have to give up picks in next year's draft, and
Yeah. Well,
I'm not
exactly.
down for that. I'm not down
I
for that at
am
all.
not fucking adding anything to Anderson. Nothing. I'm going to trade Anderson. I want four pieces coming back to the Flames. That's it.
Yeah,
I'm not, yeah, especially for somebody that's used up in a project. Like, I'm not. That just makes zero sense to me. That will set the Flames back. That is shit asset management right there, in my opinion.
yeah, and nobody's saying that it is Anderson that would be going the other way. Um, Anderson also has a 6-team no trade list, I believe, and
Mm.
if I was an NHL player, Buffalo would be the first team on the no trade list, second
Probably.
after Edmonton.
But even, but if Anderson's not part of that piece, then we're just straight up giving away picks and shit for no reason.
Yeah,
That would be
it
fucking
would be like
stupid.
Zeri, and like
Yeah.
I don't want to do
No.
that.
Yeah, that's asinine. That would be that that would be where the fan base turns on Conroy,
Yeah,
in my opinion. Like, not at this stage. Not at this stage. If we're 3, 4 years down the road and we're potentially making a push for the cup, okay, fine. Then you go after guys like that. That's fine. Not right now. We don't need projects.
yeah.
We don't need to start emptying the cupboards of picks and prospects to pick up a guy like that.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm curious what all of you have to say about this. So let us know in the comments section down below what you think of the Anderson situation. If you're a little frustrated by all of this
So,
reporting about Anderson possibly not wanting to go to a bunch of teams or whatever. Let us know what you feel about Bowen Byram, how you feel about the draft that the Flames had that was apparently very good, and yeah, the Frost contract, the Ball contract, all that type of stuff. Let us know in the comment section down below. Make sure you check us out on X at armchairgm_pod and make sure you message me on Reddit, Armchair GM Podcast, and yeah, follow us on Facebook,
Sure.
all that good stuff.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Go Flames.
Cheers. Go Flames, go.